Welcome back to our channel, guys. If you don't know, we're Andre,
And I'm Lisa.
and we're currently on a long motorhome trip through Europe. Last we bought a camper van in Italy, and it's almost a year since we set off. I can't
Can
believe
you
it.
believe it?
Yeah.
It's coming up 1 year.
Okay, Melly, maiden voyage. Are you ready?
Our new house.
Let's not try not to crash it on day one. Now, a lot of that time we spent in Spain, and this is what we're going to be talking about today. We spent almost 5 months in Spain. Okay, we did break it up with a little stint in Portugal, and we did over winter, so we did a bit of house sitting for a few months. So not every moment in Spain was spent in our motorhome, but we did explore a lot. And today we're going to talk about our experience motorhoming through Spain, and maybe we can share a little bit of what we've learned.
Currently, we are actually in France because this year we are traveling 20,000 kilometers all the way into the north of Scandinavia and back to the south of Italy. So if you aren't already, click the subscribe button and follow us along for the rest of our journey this year.
Maybe we should say, unless the fuel price go totally berserk, we might make a U-turn and go back to Spain soon.
Oh, because we loved Spain, spoiler alert!
So hold us to it. We tried to break this up into 8 categories. I mean, just see on the road, sort of roads and driving and tolls and stuff. Overnighting, like where to sleep. Van life general in Spain. 4, food, what you can expect, what we spent. 5 was sightseeing and activities. 6 was sort of our experience with the language in Spain, and 7 seasons, when we were here and what we learned from it. And then last one is practicalities of being here. And maybe we can give you a few tips on where to do what and what you should know before you come.
So the 5 months that we spent in Spain were from October 2021 all the way through to the end of March 2022. Like you already said, we did break it up with a little bit of house sitting over the winter months, but to be honest, it wasn't actually necessary. There were definitely days that we wished we were rather in our motorhome, and I think next time we'd quite happily take on the winter in Spain in our motorhome.
Oh, we've got a long plan. If you stick till the end of the video, I can give you some tips of what we'll do next time and how we will do it differently.
We entered Spain from France along the southern coast, and we traveled about 2,500 to 3,000 kilometers all the way along the southern coast of Spain.
Maybe I should say that we're not going to pretend that we know everything about Spain, because Spain is a massive country and we only stuck to the coast. We didn't even see all of it. We spent a lot of time in the south.
The more we see of Spain, the more we want to see of Spain.
For sure.
From the south of Spain, we went into Portugal and spent 5 weeks there. If you want to know a little bit more about Portugal.
I'll link in the top here. Check it out.
And from there, we drove back into the north of Spain with the idea of exploring the northern coast of Spain. Unfortunately, the weather didn't quite play along, and so we sped up our travels there and did about 750 kilometers, slightly inland along the north area of Spain, making our way back into France.
Okay, so let's start with on the road and our experiences of it.
Firstly, driving into Spain from the narrow, winding roads of France, because we avoid toll roads,
For the most of it.
was an absolute pleasure and luxury. We were lucky enough to just find out that most toll roads in Spain had been abolished.
That does come with pros and cons, because you share the major roads with a lot of traffic and obviously trucks, but it does make traveling a lot more efficient and fast. You must just know that there are still a few remaining toll roads, and in all likelihood, we suspect more toll roads will come back.
If you want to see what roads are still tolled, you can click on the website in the description below, and you can also see ahead of time what those toll roads cost.
Especially considering the massive increase in fuel price we've seen over the past few months, you have to weigh up whether it's worth taking the toll road rather than the scenic route.
Let's talk about fuel prices. It's often said that Spain has the lowest fuel prices in most of Western Europe, and this is definitely true. When we entered Spain, we were able to get fuel for as low as €1.30, and yet with the sudden price increases around March, April, May 2022, fuel went up to an average of €1.85.
Which almost
per
puts it on
litre.
par with most of the Western Europe. But the Spanish government, thankfully, were very kind enough to offer sort of a subsidy. It's temporary, though. And we managed to get about 20 to 25 cents per litre as a rebate.
And that's from April through to the end of June 2022.
Just know that the roads are great and the driving attitude is fairly relaxed. And we found drivers to be rather tolerant.
Which was a very pleasant surprise, because Spain being such a large country, you often do need to travel and cover large distances.
Well, let me also add, because it's a large country, you feel that space. Apart from the cities where the roads can be congested, and oftentimes the roads are just a joy. Next topic, overnighting in Spain, and we will have to touch on that contentious topic that is
Wild camping.
wild camping. Oh, it's such a buzzword. We don't actually like using that word. Now, before we dive deeper, wild camping is not legal in Spain. But here's the perfect part. Overnighting in your vehicle generally is legal. So you have to understand the distinction between parking and camping.
If you want to know more about this and the absolute technicalities, be sure to read our article. You can see the link in the description below.
I'm not going to dive into the details, but just know that parking is not taking your chairs out. Parking is not stabilizing your motorhome. Parking is not taking your awning out. Unless they say you're exceeding the height limit or the length limit or the weight limit, you will be allowed to overnight legally, parked, not camped.
Just on the other side of Playa La Carolina is Playa La Corcedores, which is just as full of vans.
Yeah, there's no shelter for vans here.
But damn, this place is beautiful.
I don't see any signs here specifically prohibiting anything, but there might be a sign that limits the length of a van as we exit here. We'll have a look and see.
It is quite important in Spain to look out for these signs, because just because there are a lot of other vans does not mean that it's necessarily permitted, and you could be surprised by the hefty fine if you don't read the signs.
What's that talking about? He's got a massive caravan. This round sign is probably a problem.
That's the sign we were talking about.
The leveling is a grey area because if your vehicle is more than 3.5 tons, legally you need to put chocks in front of wheels to prevent it from rolling. So you actually do need to do that. But are you allowed to level the van? Who knows? There are plenty of free places to overnight legally, but not necessarily camp. So just make sure you understand the difference. And of course, there are plenty of official motorhome parking scattered throughout Spain. Motorhome parking areas can be free or paid. If you want to visit cities, sometimes you might have to pay for one. Like, for example, we went to Barcelona, and about 25 minutes train ride away, we found a completely free, dedicated motorhome area provided by the city of Montmeló. Alternative to that is ordinary parking areas, which you share with cars, which you pay for if you want to visit the city. A good example would be when we visited Granada. We went to the train station and we actually parked inside the train station parking. It sounds weird if I say inside, but it was actually quite a bargain. It was like 12 euros
€12
for 24 hours
for surveillance safe parking.
Obviously, there's no services whatsoever, but because it's Spain, you can overnight there.
And the advantage is from there, you can visit the city by foot.
Yeah, fantastic.
Let's talk about campsites. In Spain, there are plenty of campsites, and they really can be quite cheap, as little as €13. This is in off-season, of course. But one thing to note that is particularly along the coast of both Andalusia and Murcia, many of the campsites are booked out for months in advance and months at a time, in the off-season period. It was something that caught us a little bit off guard when we wanted to go and visit Malaga, because we don't generally book a campsite in advance at all.
And although it's no problem to find like a free parking outside of the built-up areas, once you get closer to the cities, it can be a real problem.
The truth is, we saw so many people parked in places where it was clearly signed not to park overnight, and safety in numbers doesn't really count. When somebody comes around and finds you and you parked under a sign which clearly states that you can be fined, you can't really get angry about that.
You might be asked just to move on, but I'm not prepared to risk it. If there's a sign, there might be a fine.
There we go. So of the time that we spent in Spain from October 2021 through to the end of March 2022, we spent less than 25% of our time in official campsites. We spent about 50% of our nights in free, legal overnight areas, some of them official, some of them unofficial, but all legal. We managed to have an average spend of only €6.56 per night.
A lot of time we choose the serviced areas because we want services so we can service our van, and sometimes you have to pay for it anyway. But the reality is you can stay for free for the duration of your visit to Spain. It's not a problem
Quite
at all.
easily. In the beginning, we also still needed electricity because it was before we added our additional solar panels.
Yeah, we had a bit of a situation, but that's a whole different story. We mostly use Park for Night, which is very popular. Just make sure you read the recent reviews. We supplement it with ASCII app for motorhome stops, just to see if we spot something on Google Maps or in Park for Night, just to see how legit it is if you are looking for something. Let's move on to category 3, van life general. And we touched on camper van servicing in accommodation section, but there's no shortage of options to get fresh water, to dump your wastewater, whether it be at these municipal stops or a very cheap paid option, and obviously at campsites and motorhome stops.
As you no doubt know if you're watching this video, that van life, and especially full-time van life, either in vans or motorhomes, is incredibly popular in Spain.
We did experience a winter in Spain when Morocco was closed.
So it was even busier than it would normally be.
So a lot of people do suggest that it might have not been so overcrowded if the Moroccan border was open.
But that being said, I think it was also the first winter where Brexit is in effect, so people were limited to only 3 months.
Yeah, but you didn't see it because, I mean, apart from the strong British presence, there was also a strong presence from other Western or Northern European countries like German, Dutch, Belgium.
People just trying to escape the colder months in Northern Europe and coming to the south of Spain for the better weather. And I have to say that the demographic is interesting because it's a much older crowd, mostly retirees, until you get to, the southwest of Spain, Tarifa area?
It depends. There's this section almost from Gibraltar or to Cadiz where it's a lot more younger now. That might have to do with, because there's water sport activities like for kite surfing. Tarifa is very popular for a lot of people to hang out for a few months. Even north of Cadiz, we found these little communities of retirees, which is quite strange, to be honest, where people clearly are just camped out for the duration.
Everybody talks about the south of Spain when it comes to van life Spain, and I was impressed with the north of Spain because it's as friendly towards motorhomes and also has so much to see and incredible natural beauty.
For obvious reasons, people prefer the south because you can stay there throughout winter for the most of it, and especially in Andalusia, it's phenomenal. I mean, it's a very dry climate and it's just every day sunny. Let's move on to the category number 4, which is food, and I think we could start off by saying that when people here go to Spain, they say, "Ooh, but wait until you get to Portugal. It's so much cheaper there." I don't know if we completely agree with that. After we spent 5 weeks in Portugal, there are certain things that are cheaper in Spain, and there are certain things that are cheaper in Portugal. Both of these countries are significantly cheaper in supermarkets, in restaurants, than the rest of Western Europe. What's super nice in Spain is the availability of fresh produce and how affordable it is. We were there during winter, so it's avocado season. We came through asparagus season. It's just amazing. Compared to France and Italy and Germany, it's a steal.
And eating out in restaurants, I think particularly is also quite a bit cheaper in both Spain and Portugal, but particularly in Spain.
I think so. There's a weird contradiction in a way. It's like certain things we find more expensive in both Spain and Portugal than for example, we're very familiar with Italy's food, and if you go for a gelato in Italy, if I pay €2 for
it's a big gelato.
You can get a gelato in the Duomo of Milan for €2.50. Now you can't buy an ice cream in the whole of Spain for €2.50. Which is weird.
Let alone Portugal.
This is weird. It doesn't make sense. But maybe it's just the amount of ice cream is being made, or it's some sort of import. Who knows? We didn't eat out a lot because we live in a van and we actually like preparing our own food. Whenever we visit the city or major destination, we would take advantage of trying some local specialities. I'm not a massive fan of tapas, although I have to admit you do get good tapas and you get mediocre tapas, but the whole concept is a bit weird.
Try to go for tapas with the locals, not in a touristy area, because the tapas joints or restaurants in a tourist area are just not that authentic.
Well, they might be, but I find it overpriced for what you're getting, to be honest. It's one thing to go for a drink and receiving a small snack with it as part of the sort of experience, but maybe the whole thing is lost on me.
Maybe a much better option is to go for the menu del dia or piatto del dia. And this can be anything from €8 to €12. And there you usually get very good value.
Get a whole experience, multiple meals, sometimes a drink with it, so it's brilliant.
That being said, we ended up spending an average of €15.20 per day for the both of us for our time spent in Spain. And this is probably relatively low to what most people will spend.
But it's 5 months.
But it's 5 months. And it's interesting that it's also significantly less than what we spent in Portugal. So this shows you that if you stay in a place for longer, you inevitably spend less. And also because you're doing a few less touristy things. Our time spent in Portugal, we went out a little bit more. We wanted to try a few more things, and that pushes your costs up. And that €15 per person includes all snacks, drinks, and a few times eating out.
Let's talk about the next category, sightseeing and nature.
Well, let's start by saying that Spain absolutely stole my heart. From the moment we came into Spain, it's just so welcoming, and the nature is beautiful. The coastline is just never ending with stunning beaches. And not only stunning beaches, but almost every single town has a beautiful, wide, clean beach boardwalk. They have free, clean public bathrooms. It's just such a beautiful country.
Something we've commented on before is actually, it doesn't matter what town you visit, even if it's a touristy town or little inland village, there seems to be a very well developed infrastructure for leisure activity, like parks and running cycling lanes and paths. I'm not saying it's only in Spain, but because we've experienced so much of it in Spain, it's something we really appreciate.
The other thing is that the country has got such a rich history, which can be seen in some of the cities. And amongst the rest of the countryside, it's also scattered with beautiful castles.
Once again, we did spend a lot more time in the south, and the weather is a little bit different there, and the beaches are slightly different, but on average it was just phenomenal. Now, we did visit a few cities, so we visited Barcelona, Granada, Malaga, Sevilla, and from Spain we also visited Gibraltar on our way to Portugal. We found that generally entry fees to attractions are relatively affordable. Like, for example, visiting the Alhambra complex in Granada was €15 a person. Come to France and you'll be horrified. Trust me.
Where some of the other attractions in Sevilla can be as little as €5 a person.
And a lot of it is free as well. Moving on to language, we did not necessarily experience much of a problem with language. I suppose it depends on the areas you hang out with. It was quite apparent that in Andalusia, especially around the Almere area, there was a lot of English because of, well, I guess, a big British expat community. But on average, people are very helpful and friendly, and will try to figure out what you're trying to say.
Especially if you talk a little bit of Italian. They speak Spanish, I speak Italian, and we get on just fine.
People appreciate if you put a bit of effort into saying a few phrases, but Spanish, unfortunately, is spoken very fast, so it can be hard for us to follow it if you're not really familiar with it.
Not a very difficult language to learn a few phrases in.
Next up, seasons. When should you come to Spain? Good
Anytime!
question. Anytime. You can come to Spain anytime. So we did choose to come to Spain for winter predominantly, and we would have actually loved to pop over to Morocco at the same time, but we ended up staying in the south of Spain for the duration of the winter. Yes, although we were house sitting for a part of it, we probably would have been okay. For warmer weather, you might want to choose April, May, and that's shoulder season, and then obviously September to October, and that's in the south. I think we went through the north at the end of April, and there were unseasonably cold days, but it can be very pleasant. But I think from May, you're almost guaranteed to get decent weather everywhere.
And right in the south in Andalusia, the season sort of restaurants, things like that start opening around April. So that also signifies that the weather is really starting to become a little bit better from April on.
There are a few advantages of traveling out of season. One of them being, it's from our perspective, it seems like there's a higher tolerance for random overnight stopping. Maybe in peak season, it might not be ideal. The downside is a lot of the smaller towns and tourist places, like, for example, Tarifa, out of season, it's just dead.
Completely dead. Boarded up, closed up.
Closed for the season. Restaurants are closed, everything's closed. And the same applies for some beaches, like beach facilities, showers, toilets. You just don't get access to it, so that's unfortunate. But there's less people.
So if you are looking for a mild winter, the south of Spain is definitely a good option. What I appreciate about the mild winters is that even on a cold day, most of the time the sky is still blue.
Yeah, wonderful. The days do get a bit shorter, unfortunately. Our last category, practicalities of traveling in Spain by motorhome. Spain is a super easy country to travel. No doubt. The roads are great. There's plenty of options for staying.
It's just so affordable,
Yes.
so welcoming to van life, motorhome life, and welcoming in general.
So a few small things that we can maybe point out to you.
It's always great when a country has free and accessible public toilets. The other thing that I was quite impressed with is that laundry in Spain is particularly cheap relative to both its neighboring France and Portugal. Laundry is about 3 to maximum €4 in Spain versus 4 to €6 often in Portugal and France particularly.
Fresh drinking water is very easy to find
available
everywhere. And even in cities, take a refillable bottle. You can get drinking water in cities.
Nice and cold and fresh.
What we did for Sal and Data, we were in Spain for a while. Spain is, for some reason, not that easy. You have to go into a shop and register a SIM card. And it's also not super cheap. We found that the big providers like Vodafone Spain and Movistar sort of alternate giving you the best option. And what we found is sort of 28-day deals for anything from 35 to 65 gig.
You have to look which one of them is having the special for that time.
But it's not a problem to get a SIM card if you're not a Spanish resident. Lastly, LPG, which we have a refillable LPG tank, which is indispensable. If you think of traveling outside your home country, don't go anywhere without a refillable tank. We have an external filling point, and in Spain it's not a problem like in most of Western Europe so far.
Right, in conclusion.
Yes, Spain.
It's amazing. I absolutely love Spain. Spain stole my heart from the moment we entered Spain, and I would happily be able to spend much, much more time in Spain again, both in the south as well as in the north. So what would we do differently next time?
Firstly, it's not like we did everything wrong, but I would still try and avoid Spain the main tourist seasons, especially the south can get blisteringly hot. I think.
And busy.
Busy.
That being said, I would like to be there when it's slightly warmer so that we can enjoy a little bit of beach activities, supping, swimming, that kind of thing.
I think a good time of the year is sort of aiming for those shoulder seasons, which we mentioned, the April, May, and the September, October. We had a little bit of October, and it was really quite nice. Okay, so next time what we'll do is you go sort of shoulder season, September, you hit the north of Spain, you go through Portugal, October, and this is going to be like, well, what about Summer's Point? And then you go to Morocco. And then you come back and enjoy this next shoulder season in Spain.
The truth is, you can really enjoy Spain at almost any time of the year.
For sure.
When it comes to Europe, it probably does have the best climate, particularly in Andalusia, the south of Spain. If you enjoyed this video, smash the like button and leave us a comment. Tell us a little bit more about your experience of van life Spain, or if you got any further questions.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for watching. Can we say
adios?
adios?
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.